Hey, this is Coach Anderson from Mississippi Public Broadcasting Online U.S. History from 1877 to present. Today we're going to pick up with unit number 13. We've been talking about the presidents of the United States of America from Nixon, and we're going to end up with Clinton. Today we're going to look at America during the 1980s and talk about some of the popular culture in America in the 1980s. All right, we're going to start with the unit focus questions. We have three. We will not address them today, but at the end of the unit, we will come back and answer those three questions and give you some insights in terms of what we think. Question number one says, what effect did the Nixon presidency have on America's public psyche? Two, why did conservatism become such an attractive political philosophy in the United States? And three, describe the effect of technology and scientific innovation on the increased globalization of the United States. We'll start, of course, with our vocabulary, just as we always tell you. Go ahead and take out your journals, write down these terms and define them yourself. And as they come up in the content, what we will do, of course, in the lesson is we'll identify and define as many of them as we can. All right, we'll start with one lesson focus question that we will answer at the end of this particular lesson. This is, what was the Reagan administration's response to the drug problem in American society and to the AIDS epidemic in the 1980s? We're going to start with our journal topic today in terms of our do now activity. List as many interesting things as you can about the 1980s. An example will be the creation of MTV. With that, go ahead and give you a little bit of time. Write down as many things as you could possibly think of, and we'll come back and we'll tell you what Coach Anderson thought about when he came to 1980, because he is a child of the 1980s. Hey, we're back, and one of the things we talked about is this is what I'm really excited about, because popular culture during the 1980s, this is when Coach was in college at this particular time. It was a good time. It was a very, very good decade, of course, to be alive. Not that any decade is not a good decade to be alive. But if you're a child of the 1980s like I am, you can't talk about the 1980s without talking about the Lakers and the Celtics. And I fall on the side, of course, of the purple and gold. We won more of them in the 1980s than they did. If you look on the left over, you have Pac-Man, of course, and then the Walkman. Portable music wherever you want to go. And then if the Walkman was too big for you, you just reached in your closet and got your boom box and put that on your shoulder and walk down the street. Rubik's Cube, of course, dominates American popular culture. And on to the right of the Rubik's Cube, you see Michael Jackson's Thriller red leather jacket. And then MTV television, Miami Vice, with Don Johnson and Philip Michael Thomas, pastels and fast cars, and cocaine in the 1980s. And then, of course, you look down here, you look at some of those hair bands like John Bon Jovi, and then Donkey Kong, which was not my favorite, video game, but it's in the top 5. All right, the 1980s economy. When you look at the 1980s economy, trickle-down economics, or Reaganomics, had ended stagflation in America by 1983. Baby boomers had become yuppies. And these were young urban professionals who were accumulating great wealth. In the election of 1984, Ronald Reagan defeated Walter Mondale and his running mate Geraldine Ferraro, who becomes the first lady, or first female to be placed on the ballot of a major political party as the vice presidential candidate. The 80s saw the advent of discount stores like Walmart, Best Buy, Home Depot, cable television, which would give us America TBS, TNT, WGN, MTV, BET. Some of those things, of course, the 1980s in terms of looking at our popular, that shaped our popular culture. Technological advances would create VCRs, video games like Pac-Man, and the creation of GPS. Those advances lead to DVDs and CDs in the 1990s and 2000s. So the 80s, I try to tell you, it was a great time to be alive. Walter Mondale was the Democratic presidential candidate in 1984. He loses, of course, to Ronald Reagan, because Ronald Reagan, of course, is one of the most popular presidents, of course, of the 20th century. And this is Geraldine Ferraro, who ran as his vice presidential candidate in the election in 1984. Drug and alcohol abuse were two major societal issues in the 1980s. 2 court cases decided youth rights regarding search and seizure. New Jersey versus TLO, which decided that students could be searched at school with reasonable cause, and Vernonia School District versus Acton decided that it was illegal to give students random drug tests. The other major society issue facing the world in the 1980s was AIDS, which shined the spotlight on the gay community. Musicians used their celebrity to raise money to address American and world society issues like Band Aid or Live Aid, and then Farm Aid were created by musicians to provide relief. In the 1980s, older Americans started the movement to protect Social Security and Medicare, AARP, that was created as a lobby for older Americans. Here you see a picture of First Lady Nancy Reagan, and she, of course, has kids surrounding her, and it says, "Just say no to drugs." This was one of the hearts of the Reagan society, domestic plan to prevent the spread of and the proliferation of drugs in American society. So, "Just Say No to Drugs" was the campaign spearheaded by First Lady Nancy Reagan. Here, USA for Africa. Some of the best talent ever assembled anywhere in one room. The single, of course, written by Michael Jackson, of course, and Lionel Richie, and it was called "We Are the World." And the proceeds of this went to famine relief in Ethiopia. Some of my favorites you can see there: Ray Charles, Billy Joel, Daryl Hall, and John Oates, Diana Ross, Stevie Wonder, Smokey Robinson, a virtual who's who, Huey Lewis, and some news. So Paul Simon, when you look at these people, once again, one of the greatest assemblages of talent in the history of music in anywhere in America and the rest of the world. We are the world. What was Reagan's administration response to the drug problem in American society and the AIDS epidemic in the 1980s? Well, with drugs, he had the war on drugs, which emphasized law enforcement, stricter drug sentencing laws, and anti-drug campaigns like "Just Say No," led by First Lady Nancy Reagan. Critics argued that Reagan administrations largely ignored addiction treatment and disproportionately targeted minority communities. It was one of those situations in America where if you got caught with drugs or if you were caught being a drug dealer, there were some very stiff penalties that had to be served. The response to the AIDS epidemic was slow with limited funding and the little public acknowledgement, which critics argue led to many lives lost. It will only be after the acknowledgement by high-profile Americans that they had contracted the HIV virus that the American government will start paying some attention to what was seen as just being a gay disease. When you have Magic Johnson, Rock Hudson, and some of the people, of course, that emerge, as victims, of course, of this particular malady, we're going to find that America stands up for the first time and starts a concerted effort to find a treatment. We hope you enjoyed our brief conversation on the 1980s, and once again, one of my favorite times in the history of the United States of America. Once again, I guess it's only because I'm a child of the 80s, as I said earlier. But remember what I said, even though I lived it, that don't make me an expert on it. And remember what I always tell you, don't take my word for it. Do your own research. And with that, this is Coach Anderson from Mississippi Public Broadcasting Online U.S. History, and we'll see you next time.